Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Tuesday night. I'm Rob Whiteside, and this is Deep in the Plus. And man, tonight we're getting really close to Halloween. It's very close to spooky season, and so spooky season coming to an end, rather. And we are very excited to talk about this movie tonight. With me is my special guest, Katie from Disneyland News Today. How you doing, Katie?
Good. How are you doing, Rob?
Great. I'm very excited. When all this started, when we were starting to decide all these Halloween movies we were going to do for Deep in the Plus, this one isn't super deep, right? So this is one that we were like, you know what, should we do this? Should we not do this? But we are super fans of this movie. And so you and I got
Absolutely.
together and said, we're going to do.
Nightmare Before Christmas. We're doing it.
Yes, Nightmare. Nightmare Before Christmas. I am, yes,
Yeah.
yes. We are so excited about this one. So Nightmare Before Christmas is like that's my Halloween like tradition is like I watch this like every Halloween night. I'll watch this movie because it's sort of like the bridge for me between Halloween and Christmas. So I get really excited about this movie. I have a lot of Nightmare merch whenever they get Nightmare stuff in the parks, whether it's this zero popcorn bucket that I have above me, or an Oogie Boogie popcorn bucket, or just basically any popcorn bucket I'm going to get anyway. But if it's Nightmare, I'm going to go out of my way. There's really cool Jack Sipper last year that I tracked down. And so anytime that there's a chance to talk about Nightmare, I definitely want to do that. But I want to talk about, the beginnings of this. It was a poem that Tim Burton did in 1982 that he put together. It was 3 pages, I think, and that was really the genesis of what is Nightmare Before Christmas, right?
The poem, yeah, he was working at Disney at the time, actually, and he wanted to, I think, expand on what he was doing personally. And the poem, the only two characters in it were Jack and Santa. So it was just his short little story of the Pumpkin King wanting to take over Christmas, and it turned into what we have today. So the origin story, anything Tim Burton, it's awesome to learn about. It obviously created this amazing story we have today. So
Yeah, I mean, I love Tim Burton. I think, like everything that he's done, I'm a huge fan of. But Henry Selick too, who did the stop action, he was the director for this movie. Also did James and the Giant Peach. He did Coraline. So these guys got together and put this movie together. It came out in 1993, and it was a game changer to me. I mean, stop action animation was one of those things that I remember from Rankin and Bass and back in the day with like the Heat Miser and the Burgermeister Meisterburger and all those like specials that they used to
mhm.
do around Christmas time. And so, to me, like the idea of stop action was like it was like, why are we doing this now? I mean, we have hand drawn animation. We were on the cusp of starting the computer generation. 2 years later, Toy Story came out. So there's something about this that is pretty amazing for like a stop action movie that you almost like forget immediately that it's stop action, that it's little puppets,
Right.
right?
And it's so beautiful because you're watching it. It's on these amazing sets that they like handmade, and you have no idea. It looks straight out of animation, but the effort and the art design, it's really awesome about this film.
Yeah, and you go back into it and you see like what like artists they are, kind of like, the
Hmm.
Muppet puppeteers that, they are just really, they are great artists and they, just
They're good at
painstaking.
their
Like
skill.
I couldn't hold my hand that still. And then if something were to happen 60 frames later and I knock this thing over, I would just be devastated.
Right.
And I'm sure they did it all the time, but they're so meticulous about what they do. And the end result of what they put together was absolutely, to me, breathtaking. It's one of those things that, like, if someone's never watched Nightmare, you kind of want to pull them aside and go, first of all, who hurt you? What's your problem? Why haven't you ever
Right.
seen this movie? And then you go, look, let's go watch this movie. And the problem that I have when I do that is it's a little slow in some places. And so I'm like, it's a little bit sleepy and just in some places. But again, beautiful movie. We'll talk about the cast and the music and everything as we go along. But, I'm just a huge fan of it just because of like all of it. Just the aesthetic, the look of it is just so perfect. I mean, if it didn't look so cool, everyone in the world wouldn't have a Jack Skellington tattoo, I assume, right?
Exactly. And it's one of those films that, I mean, obviously it wasn't really successful when it officially came out or originally came out, and it's gained such a cult following over the past few years. And it's just awesome to see that this film that came out over 20 years ago is still like people every day are learning about it and watching it. And it's an hour. It's easy to watch, and there are slow parts, but right, it blows my mind when people haven't seen it.
Okay, so the basic gist of this movie is that Jack is tired. He is the Pumpkin King, and he has just thrown another perfect Halloween, and everybody's high fiving, and they're all excited. But they realize that Jack is there's something wrong with Jack, right? I feel I'm going to start singing at some point. I know it, but he's in there and he's talking about like he's longing for something else, and he's wandering through the woods, and he finds these trees, and in the trees are holidays, and so just that concept that this forest of holidays is kind of awesome. And then he gets in there and he falls into Christmas, and that moment where he falls into Christmas Town, that's where the movie really takes off for me. And that music for what's this? Oh, I love that moment in the movie. Now, granted, before we get to that, we have the hill, and how beautiful that is, and we get to meet Zero for a minute, and that's awesome. But when he gets there and he gets into Christmas Town, and he's going around, and he's so excited, and the "What's This" music, like I get jazzed about that. Like that is probably my favorite song, and there's a lot of good music in this, but that's probably my favorite song.
I don't know if I could pick a favorite. I mean, just starting at the beginning of the movie, we have "This Is Halloween" as the opening scene, and it's still, I'm like, first of all, stop motion claymation. This is crazy. But the song's awesome. Jack's reveal when he pops out and he's the Pumpkin King and he turns into Jack. It's awesome. And you see a lot of the characters displayed in the first scene, and it's a lot of story building. And then you go on to Jack on his hill. Obviously, he's sad. He's not happy with his life. He goes and finds Christmas Town. But yeah, the first 10 minutes of the film is really packed full. You're getting so much information. You're learning about these characters. I don't know what my
Yeah.
favorite is, though. I might have to think about it for a little bit.
What your favorite song is? Yeah, probably. I mean, so, and again, it probably changes with me from moment to moment. But as they're going through, and he decides that he needs to be the guy who's going to throw Christmas, because he's nailed it with Halloween. He's got it. He's got that down. And now he wants to do something different, but he doesn't quite understand it. And so he's trying to explain it to all of his fellow townsfolk who like to take everything and make it evil and horrible and horrific, and he's trying to go, no, it's this, it's that, and then he's like, wait a minute, they're never going to get it, so let's just lean into it. Let's just make this a horrible, scary Halloween Christmas, and then that's kind of the birth of this thing with Jack. And then he's like, he is obsessed, and he goes into his tower and he's doing all this like the science work where he's like pouring the stuff into the beakers and going,
That's
I'm
awesome.
trying to figure this out. Yeah, because again,
I love
stop action animation.
he's like writing with chalk the mistletoe recipe on his chalkboard and stuff like it's so much detail. It's awesome. I could talk about the detail forever.
Right, and you want to go back and watch it again and again and again, because it's so cool. It's so much is in there. And then we meet Sally, and Sally is like, you know what? She's like kind of a Frankenstein character. She's been put together. She's kind of like indentured to the doctor and has to like be there, and she's kind of shut in. She's got sort of that Rapunzel thing where she's locked into this this castle and she can't leave, so she always finds new ways to get out, which I think is kind of amazing too, when she she poisons his soup and then has the holes in the bottom of it, and again the stop action as the liquid is pouring down is just amazing. And then she gets out and she's worried about Jack, and then she realizes that Jack's kind of going rogue, and this is probably not a good thing, and she kind of foresees it with the kind of the thing bursting into flames in her hand. So so Sally's there. Sally is voiced by Catherine O'Hara, who as the show that I call The Creek, because I don't want to say the word, on Jimmy Fallon, I always hold up the sign. That's kind of what my kids know her from, and as Moira, and I'm looking over on the side going, okay, well, wait a minute, well, what about she's the mom in Home Alone, and what about that she was the voice of Sally? And they're like, what? I mean, she was in a lot of Disney movies, and we can call Home Alone a Disney movie now because they bought it. But she was in Tall Tale.
Yeah, she had a extensive relationship with Tim Burton too, because she had obviously been in Beetlejuice. So her actually voicing a character on Nightmare was awesome, and I think her singing voice is incredible. She even, I'm pretty sure she voices one of Lock, Shock, and Barrel. She's one of the kids too. So she's doing
She
a
is.
lot on this film, and I don't know, I love her. I always thought Sally was such a I was the kid who was Sally for Halloween like 4 years in a row. She's one of my favorite characters. She's mysterious, but she's kind. I don't know, I love her. Like outside of looking up to a female Disney princess, I think she's a good character for girls to look up to.
Do you have a picture? Like, I
Of
feel
me
like at
dressed up
some
as
point,
Sally?
yeah, I feel like at
Somewhere.
some point we
Somewhere.
need to see that because that's kind of amazing. So yeah, so she was of shock. And then I believe that you mentioned maybe before we started that Paul Rubens, who played Pee Wee Herman, was the voice of
Yes.
Locke, and then Beryl was Danny Elfman. So Danny Elfman made all the music for this. He is the singing voice of Jack, which I find interesting that he has the ability to do voice acting because he is Beryl, but that they didn't choose him to be the
The
speaking
voice.
voice of Jack, even though he is the singing voice. And a lot of the songs are very sort of spoken, which is also interesting to tie those together.
That they decided to
But
pick a different speaking voice for him, even though most of the songs, like you said, are he's talking in them. But I don't
yep,
know, Danny Elfman, I think is one of the most interesting points on this film. Just music, because not only is he making all of the music, he's singing all of the parts for Jack, he's writing it, and if you guys haven't seen it, the prop culture episode on Nightmare Before Christmas is really good, and Danny Elfman's in it. And I'm not sure if he talks about it in prop culture, but somewhere I was watching where he said he related Nightmare Before Christmas a lot to his career while he was making the film because he was in Oingo Boingo, which is a band, and he didn't really know what to do afterwards. He knew he didn't want to be in a band anymore, but he didn't know what to do with the next step of his life. So he said being Jack helped him a lot, which I find interesting. And it's cool to see someone from a band voicing Jack Skellington, and he does a great job.
well, in the same way, and I'm sure you didn't see the early works of Ron Howard, where he was, on Happy Days, and he was Richie Cunningham, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, Richie Cunningham is directing, and then all of a sudden his daughter is acting, and now she's directing. It's like you just don't expect that. And with the same thing with Danny Elfman, and like I think of his music from Weird Science, the band
Yeah.
Oingo Boingo sang the song Weird Science, and then it's like, wait a minute, that guy just wrote all of the orchestration for Batman in 1989. Oh, how
He
is
and
that a
even
thing?
with
And
yeah, with with Paul Rubens, who was brought onto this project, he had done all the music for Pee Wee's Big Adventure prior to Nightmare, which is awesome. Also, I love seeing Paul Rubens like voice act in these films, and I mean, we had him on Star Tours for a little bit at Disney, but to have him in Nightmare is just kind of weird. Nice Tim Burton homage.
yes, absolutely. So, again, the acting in this is amazing. The stop action is amazing. The music is amazing, and so the story is amazing too to me. And again, very similar to something like The Grinch, where it was a Dr. Seuss book and it was very consolidated. And they said, "Hey, we have to make this into a movie." They took a 3-page poem and they made it into a 90-minute movie. So, this is something where, like I said, there are some slow parts, and I think that's because you don't need to tell more details of the story than are already there. I think the story is there. And so they, to stretch it out a little bit, have a lot of just beautiful scenes. But because of the music and those scenes and just like watching it, it does, like I said, get a little sleepy in some parts. For again, for when you're watching it when I'm watching by myself, it's the perfect movie. But when I'm watching it with somebody else, I'm like, ooh, I feel like I'm kind of losing
Are
them a
they
little
having
bit.
fun? Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
I think there's some there it's hard because there's such dense scenes. I mean, most of the scenes were like I mean Jackson Christmas Town or the scenes with like Oogie Boogie and Santa, those are all really dense and there's so much going on, but they have these breaks where it's really pretty. Like I think the scene that I remember the most is at the top of Dr. Finkelstein, right? His at the top of
Hmm.
his tower, they like pan down over his stairs down into this corridor and I just wow, that's a beautiful set and their camera work's amazing. It's actually one of the first claymation stop motion films to do moving pan shots, which is cool too, which just adds such a beauty to the film on top of the already like intricate sets. But it does make it a little bit slow, but if you're a Nightmare Before Christmas nerd, you just sit there and enjoy it.
Right. And this was a pretty intense movie when it came out because it was not ready to be a Disney movie. Released it. Michael Eisner had broken the company up into, or the film industry part of the company, into Hollywood Pictures, Touchstone Pictures, and Disney. And so this was a Touchstone, which is kind of in the middle. Like Hollywood was a little bit more racy. It was like, hey, let's use the Disney company to release some stuff that's a little bit more, kind of, again, I keep using the word racy, but Touchstone was kind of in the middle there. So when it was a little bit too much to be a Disney movie, it was Touchstone, and that's what I was originally released. And then at some point, they just made it a Disney movie. And to me, that was brilliant because I feel like it is such a strong IP, and it gives Disney that top end of edginess that I think that they needed to have. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little different. It targets a different audience for Disney fans for sure. But there obviously is, especially being out in California, we have Haunted Mansion Holiday, which is like religious out here. So it's like so fun every year seeing everyone still's buying the Nightmare Before Christmas merch, and they all have their Jack Skellington hats on and are waiting 2 hours for Haunted Mansion Holiday. So it's nice to see it's still prevalent to them.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion Holiday. When we're done talking about the movie, let's just talk about it now. Let's just talk about it now because
Okay.
the
I
very
don't
first
mind.
time, the very first time that I went to Disneyland, I wanted to time it so that because I live on the East Coast, I wanted to time it so that I would be there around the time that Nightmare was out there. That overlay is amazing, and I had not seen all of it, but I had seen enough of it all you had to say was Nightmare Before Christmas. I was going to be there no matter what. Even if it had been the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay of It's a Small World, I'd still want to see it. So
Yeah.
I go out and we see it, and we do it. And I did it 5 times in that trip. And I just wanted to go back again and again and again. And it's just the perfect overlay. And to me, that might even be my favorite Disneyland attraction, bar none,
Really.
because and the genius that it's only there a little while. Like if it was there year round, it wouldn't make sense but it makes perfect sense that they can do it in Halloween and Christmas time because of the span of this movie. So
Perfect.
it's just so good.
There, I mean, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in Chicago, so it was only every so often I'd be able to visit Disneyland. And as a kid, Haunted Mansion Holiday, I remember just like standing out. It was always the attraction I wanted to do. It's what I remember the most. So when I moved out here last year in the fall, I was like, oh my gosh, when are we gonna get Haunted Mansion Holiday? I'm so excited. And I went on opening, and it was like, oh my gosh, I remember everything now. So it's like every year it's fun, you go back, it's something to look forward to. It's like it's a homey feeling of Disneyland. It's something unique to the park. I mean, Tokyo has it too, but still it feels like a Disneyland thing. But it's
I
awesome. It's such a
I
fun feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gingerbread house that sits in the middle of the
Yes.
table that's always different.
I
Perfect.
know. That's the best smell on any attraction.
That was really, to me, this year, the one thing that I was going to miss hugely about Disneyland was not being able to go to the Oogie Boogie event again. More Nightmare IP, and then also the Oogie Boogie Bash and the Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion Holiday. Those are the 2 things that I was like, I was really hoping they would find a way to do. And obviously, as it got closer and closer to, usually this happens like what, September 1st?
It's usually in September, yeah. I think
Yeah.
last year we got kind of stuck because they did it early because they opened it later because it was the 50th anniversary of Haunted Mansion, and they were going to leave it later because they were going to do a massive refurb of Haunted Mansion. So it stayed till like end of January and was down for refurb until March when Disneyland closed. So we will not see regular Haunted Mansion exist at Disneyland at all in 2020 probably. But it's okay. It's something to look forward to. I was hoping that hopefully the parks would open so we could do it, but I'm not even sure if it's something they'd look into doing this year if they were open. So I felt good like
No.
doing it 100 times last year. I felt justified.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, again, it's to me, it is so perfectly done. I mean, it almost looks like they've made a brand new attraction when you go into it, that everything is different. And then, like, when you look up into you know, when you're doing the elevator and you get down and he's like, "Happy Holidays," and it's like, and it's almost this like dun 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 dun, dun, and it's like they mix the music with the like to come out to
One of
social. Oh
them
my gosh,
regular.
it's so well done. Yeah, it's so well
I
done.
have
And
a
then like replacing the vampire teddy bear where the crow usually is fantastic.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a cast member who works on Haunted Mansion, and she's always telling me that when she's backstage, they have stuff crammed in every corner. Like everything that is in Haunted Mansion Holiday sits in the mansion all year. So they hate when it's not Haunted Mansion Holiday because they have to move around. Like I know the big snow, like the white post angels that are in the
Right.
graveyard, they're just sitting in rooms, which is crazy to me.
That is okay. So we'll get back off of this and back to the movie because that's what we're here to talk
Oh,
about. But I
sorry.
just that to me is so like the it's just so perfectly done. So you know, so we're to the point where Jack is actually going to go forward and he's going to make Christmas happen, and he's going to take it over. So he's got to go get Santa Claus. He's got to go steal Santa Claus. He sends Lock, Shock, and Barrel to get him. When they first come back with the Easter Bunny, you know, he's like, nope, that's not him. Take him back and apologize. And then they bring Santa back, and you know, then he's like, okay, well, you guys have to take him somewhere. And then they take him to Oogie Boogie, which is again just such a great villain in this. And the thing is, I'm not sure that it actually needed a villain because you already had Jack was sort of like a sort of anti-hero maybe, and so I'm not sure you
Right.
really needed a villain. But Oogie
Jack,
Boogie is
he already has enough
so
on his
good.
plate. Jack's worried
Exactly.
about too much. He's trying to take over another holiday, and then he has to deal with Oogie Boogie too. So it's just it's a whole thing. But Oogie Boogie's a great villain for sure. He's a little different. He's fun. His music, like the scenes accompanying him and his music, like the sorry, I can't speak. The specific song for his scene is really good. I think that scene is awesome when obviously him and Jack are going back and forth in Oogie Boogie's little lair and the string gets pulled and you just see all of the bugs fall from him. I think that's one of the craziest scenes in the movie because obviously the detail of every single little bug. But he's a
Right.
good character. He's a just a little contrast in the film for Jack.
Well, and the fact that he's like evil evil, whereas Jack is like fun evil. You know,
Yeah.
like he's got Jack's like just holiday fun. It's Halloween. Let's get weird. And you know, Oogie Boogie is like he seems to enjoy hurting people or you know throwing his chance dice and things like that. So it's just
Yeah.
you know he's definitely a different kind of like they're almost like coworkers, but he's the really bad guy.
No,
And to your point
it's
about
weird because
like,
they talk to each
go
other
ahead.
like they're friends. He's like, Oogie Boogie, why are you doing this? And he's like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to kill you now. But yeah, it's fun.
But you were talking about the pulling the string and the bugs. That is just phenomenal to think about what that took to make that in
Right.
stop action. And then you know they so Lock, Shock, and Barrel. They're kind of like I don't know why Jack trusts them because he knows that like Oogie's like their guy,
There's the
but he
tension.
does. Yeah, and they're and but I mean those characters are so cool, and the whole idea of like you know I don't even know like trying to explain to my kids like Lock, Stock, and Barrel and like that's a thing, that's a saying because they don't really hear that. It's not something that you walk down the street and you hear people say, but that Lock,
Yeah.
Shock, and Barrel came from that. It's just very smartly done. Those characters are great. The fact that they had the masks on, they take the masks off, and they're like even worse under the masks. Um, I think is pretty
I
smart.
I think
Um,
that might be one of my favorite songs from the movie is Kidnap Mr. Sandy Claus. I love that scene. It's so fun. It's weird. It really is a weird scene, but they're fun characters and yeah, why does Jack trust them? That is a good question.
I don't know. I don't know. That's weird. So then, you know, they're like the basics, you know, the basic end scene is this showdown, you know, where Jack has gone out and he is doing his Christmas and he is so proud of himself and he's thinking, man, I am really bringing it to this town. And then there's like they're firing missiles at him and because he's leaving like these like you know vampire teddy bears in their house and snakes and all these other things because he doesn't understand the difference between his holiday and Christmas and what it means. And it's almost like that sort of Grinch moment where he like realizes that you know the true meaning of Christmas. along the way when he gets blown out of the sky and he's laying there and he's like, I've ruined this and it's not what I wanted and I was trying to make good. And he's like, okay, the only way to fix this is to, go get Santa. Santa always fixes it. I mean, how many movies are there where they run, get Santa, and they're like, hey, we've messed this up, Santa. He's like, no, I got you, no problem. We're going to solve this. Just give me my sleigh and we're good to go.
Yeah.
And then Santa goes and saves the day.
Santa, yeah, he's put up with a lot during this film. He gets kidnapped, and then he's in the little lair with Oogie Boogie, and he then has to save Christmas, which is probably Santa's forte. But yeah, he honestly, it's interesting seeing how the poem, it was just Jack and Santa in the beginning. Like, it was just those two characters going back and forth. So it's nice seeing that little connection in the film between them, even though Santa should be infuriated. He is not.
So Sally and Jack, they're going to make this right. They go back to get Santa. They go to rescue Santa from Oogie Boogie. They're all working together. They defeat Oogie Boogie. They get Santa out. Santa's going. He's going to fix the whole thing. He goes back, and it's kind of like this like happily ever after thing. Do you feel like there ever needed to be a sequel? Because I have my own opinion on this, but I want to get yours. Should there have been a sequel to this movie?
I am, first of all, I against sequels in general, but I think this is one of the last films that should really get a sequel. I think it's so perfect. I don't want to know what else happens. I want to hope that Jack is somewhere in Halloweentown doing his business and Santa's helping or doing Christmas, and maybe Jack helps every so often, but I'm too scared to see what they would do with a sequel. I don't know.
Well, and there was some talk that I read about where maybe they had a conversation about it, and that Tim Burton said something about revisiting it and going to like Thanksgiving or something like that. And there's not a lot of Thanksgiving movies out there, so but I don't want that. Like as a fan of this
I don't
movie,
know, yeah.
and it's really weird to say, I don't want it. I want them in that bubble. I want them in that time capsule. I just want to know those characters in that time. I don't want to see them later. I don't want to see what happens next because it was wrapped up perfectly, and I love that for what it is. And so, I'm going to buy the merch. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to go back and watch this movie every time, and I'm going to learn more about it, and I'm going to watch shows like Prop Culture, and I'm going to see, what like the, what happened behind the scenes.
Right.
And that was pretty moving, seeing them take these, props back to the actors who were involved with it, or to Danny Elfman or whoever. So, I mean, that's my philosophy on it is I'm good with it.
I agree. I mean, I'm such a fangirl for the movie too. I don't want to see these characters change really. I think that's part of it is like I love them so much. I don't want to know what else could be
Yeah.
held in these future films. And yeah, I mean, Prop Culture, honestly, if you're a big fan of the film, definitely check it out on Disney Plus. I think it was my favorite episode on the Prop Culture series because I mean, you get to see Henry Selick, Danny Elfman, some of the artists who work in costuming. You get to see some of the practical sets, and you can tell everyone who worked on this film really loved it. It was a project made with love for sure. And I think we haven't talked about Henry Selick much, but I think it's crazy. I was doing some research on everything in production, and this film it was one of the longest films in stop motion history in production. So it took, I think, close to 2.5, 3 years. Someone may correct me in the comments, but Henry Selick honestly was the heart of the film as much as it's Tim Burton's story. Tim Burton only showed up like 3 times to set, which I think is crazy. So Henry Selick deserves a lot of credit for it. It's most of his art design, actually, other than Tim's original sketches, but definitely something to check out on Pop Culture if you want to learn more about how they made it. These see the scene or sets outside of the movie, something to check out.
So for those of you watching this live, first of all, thanks for watching. I want to make sure I have a question for you, but before I do, I'm going to beg a little bit and ask you that if you do or are watching, we have about 93 people watching. If you could all give us a like, we would really appreciate it so that we can continue to do this and people can continue to find it. And hopefully a lot of Nightmare fans will find it and watch it as well. So here's the thing that I want to ask the people in chat, and I want to ask you this too, Katie, is this a Halloween movie or is this a Christmas movie? That's a question that I've asked before. Like I've put that on my Instagram before. I've said, is this a Halloween movie or is this a Christmas movie? Because I do feel like there's kind of an answer, but I want to get your opinion on it. And in chat, I want to see like what the popular opinion is. Just let us know.
This is the all-knowing answer. I have no idea. But I mean, honestly, I was just thinking about this because there was a video of, I think it was Ryan Gosling, and someone asked him, "What's your favorite Disneyland attraction?" And he said, "I love Haunted Mansion, but I just went for Halloween and they have Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't want to see Christmas for Halloween." So, I don't know, maybe like because Christmas is in it, it's better to wait on the verge, like we were talking about, watch it on Halloween so you're ready for Christmas. But it's hard to watch as a just a Halloween movie sometimes because there's a lot of Christmas in it. So part of me wants to lean it's more Christmas, but it's so spooky too. It could be either. I don't know. I don't have a distinct answer.
I like Debbie's answer, and Debbie says in chat, it's an all year movie. Like it, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it
absolutely.
is. It is. It's a watch it whenever movie. I'm 100% with you on that one. Uh, and I get that. I mean, and like I said, for me, it is sort of a bridge between the two holidays. But as far as like the merch and decorations and things that I have, it's like I feel like I can, just like Disneyland, I can have it happen from September 1st to like January 6th. I can have nightmare stuff out because of that. And you have, Sandy Claus Jack, around the holidays, and I have a nutcracker of him, and that's a thing. And then I put like a 10-foot inflatable Jack in like the Pumpkin King outfit out in front of my house. So I do think it kind of like is year round kind of a situation, but I do think it leans more as a Halloween movie. And as a matter of fact, when you pull it up on Disney Plus and you look and it says Halloween, it was in pole position. It was number one recommendation for me. And maybe it's because it's targeting me. I don't know, but I think that's the thing, is like it's number one, and then Hocus
Sometimes, yeah,
Pocus.
I agree. I sometimes it's weird because I feel like people get Nightmare Before Christmas out for Halloween and then forget to watch it during Christmas. I still watch it all of Christmas. I love it.
I'm telling you, like, what's this is a great Christmas song. I mean, it really is. Although, like, I feel like it's overdone, but like again, on my Instagram account, I like posted "This is Halloween" because like I hear that in my head when I think about Halloween in general as "This is Halloween." So I mean, there's so much of it that is both to me, but I do love the idea of it being a year round, Debbie. I think that's like on the money, because anybody sits down and says, "Hey, let's watch Nightmare," I'm like, let's do this. Some folks we're talking about like Friday the 13th is, and Halloween, that those are their go-to movies for this holiday. But I don't get into the horror thing. I love the fun part of Halloween. And so to me,
Yeah,
this is a little touch of the scary, but it's just fun. I mean, it's just fun. So
definitely.
let's
All
talk
your
about this movie is a cult classic, right? I feel like at this point, again, it came out in '93. It's got a birthday coming up in 3 years. This is a big deal movie. I mean, it's got a birthday coming up every year, but a big anniversary milestone, for the 30th. Um, so I look at this thing, and it's a cult classic, and a lot of the cult classics we talk about were like, oh, it was ahead of its time, so it didn't really do well. Like Hocus Pocus didn't really do so well at the box office, but people love it now. Some of the things, like some of the older movies like Tron, like I mean, these movies, like, they're
yeah.
cult classics, right? This one actually killed it at the box office. It only cost 18 million to make, which is crazy to me, with the ornate sets and the puppets
I
and
thought it did
82
poorly.
faces for Jack. What's that?
I I must have it confused. I thought I mean I was not alive, but I thought Nightmare didn't have the biggest success at the box office originally.
It was
It
18
did?
million dollars and it made 90. It made 90 million.
Oh,
So it
so
cost
most
18 to
definitely
make. Yeah.
did.
Right. Which again is, I'm surprised with that, why they didn't go, hey, let's throw a little bit more money at this and make it, make a Nightmare 2. But again, like I said, I'm glad they didn't. I feel like it didn't really need that. Um, it has become, just like Hocus Pocus, it has become a Disney like staple for Halloween. I mean, when we go to the Halloween parties, they've got Jack there, and the meet and greet line for Jack is insane. And then again, the fact that you can bring it back to Sandy Claus and do that again is really cool. Jack and Sally in front of Disneyland, in front of the Halloween, in front of the Haunted Mansion for Haunted Mansion Holiday was so like surreal to me to
It's
see them, because
awesome.
you don't see a lot of Jack stuff at Disney World. Disneyland seems to be a
It's
little bit more
everywhere.
Alice, Mary Poppins, and Nightmare Before Christmas than we get out east.
I, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jack and Sally are probably one of the most popular meet and greets at Disneyland during the holidays. But I mean, they'll even, like, if you're in line for Haunted Mansion Holiday, they'll walk underneath the line and, like, talk to you from the line. They're awesome. Everyone loves meeting them. They're fun. No, everyone wants to meet
Well,
Jack
and
again.
now they float by you in the character cavalcade at the Magic
Yeah,
Kingdom. So I mean,
I
you
did
still get
see.
to see them.
It was cool. I was like,
Um,
oh my gosh, I'm seeing Jack again.
I wish I had that Jack sipper that I got with me because it has like these long. It's the most ridiculous sipper in the world. Like it
They're
looks like a
so weird.
ventriloquist doll. Do you have it?
I don't have it. I think I had to get it for
Oh.
Tom at Disneyland, but I remember carrying it around. I was like, how is this functional?
It's like a
But
baby. I mean, it really is. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about this movie before we wrap this up?
we've hit a lot. I don't have anything particular to mention.
Okay. So then the big question, the one we always have to ask, and keep in mind that we are fanboy, fangirl of this movie. So it's going to be, we have to look at it a little bit more kind of like 30,000 foot. So, Katie, would you recommend this movie?
I would recommend this person or movie to the right person. I think it is slow in parts. I think it's not a regular cartoon you're going to sit down and watch just for a laugh. It's a little bit more dense than that, and there's a lot going on. So I think if like you obviously like Tim Burton or you like claymation, stop motion, you like spooky stuff, Halloween movies, this is definitely up your alley. It's such a good feel good movie. It's the characters are memorable, the music's amazing. If you like James and the Giant Peach, Coraline, films like that, watch Nightmare Before Christmas. You have to. It's amazing. But I do see how there are people who may not like Nightmare Before Christmas because of the reasons we've talked about. So definitely for the right audience.
Yeah, I would say that for me, I would recommend it. And if you don't watch it on my recommendation, then let's sit down and I will explain to you why this is such a great movie. I've said this before that Tron is a favorite of mine, but I wouldn't make anybody watch Tron because it's very dated. It's very in its time. It was ahead of its time because of the computer generated graphics, and the story I think is cool, but it's a little bit dated it's very dated at this point. So that's why I love the reboot with Tron Legacy. I was okay with that happening because I felt like it needed sort of a pick me up. But for this one, I feel like it tests the time. I feel like it is a great movie to watch, especially because it bridges two holidays, and like holidays are fun. I love the holidays. And the fact that this is available at your fingertips if you have Disney Plus and you can watch it anytime is really exciting to me. I own it on DVD in multiple versions. I own it on Blu-ray. I probably have a VHS somewhere of it.
I have the
I just I
collected.
yeah, so exactly. So wait a minute. Let's go back to that.
If
Hold
you
on.
can see it up
Do
in
you
my
have it?
corner, I have it
Yes.
displayed on my wall. But
I
yeah,
love all of the
everything.
by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend this, and we would love to hear from you in the comments below. Tell us what you think. Tell us why you love it. If you don't like it, I would love to hear that too, and maybe like try to like convince you otherwise.
Convince you to
But
like
to
it.
me, this is the Halloween movie for me to watch every year on Halloween. When I was a little kid, it was like the Charlie Brown special, which now isn't airing on regular TV anymore, which is a travesty. But this one became my like go-to every Halloween must do. And so hopefully it is for you guys too. Hopefully you enjoyed talking about this with us. Leave a bunch of comments. We would love to talk to you about any of this stuff. And next week is election week. So if you're watching this live, make sure you go vote. Your vote matters and it means a lot. And then also, because it is election night when we're going to be doing Deep in the Plus, next week is going to be First Kid. So hope you join us for that one. Katie, thank you so much, as always, for being with
Of
me on this one.
course. Thanks for having me.
And please, for the love of God, get those people to open up Disneyland again. I know there's a
I'm
lot going on out there with fires and things, but it would be great, if we could have a little bit of Disneyland before the end of the year. Doesn't look like it, but see what you can do.
Yeah, I'll try. Check in soon at Disneyland News Today for coverage of Buena Vista Street reopening.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Be safe out there. Have a great week. Appreciate everything you do.